Good evening.
Until I fix it.
Good evening. Today is Monday, September 27th, and this meeting is called to order at 6:12 p.m. This is a regular meeting of the Romulus Community Schools Board of Education. Madam Secretary, when you call the roll, for those that are joining virtually, please state your location.
Terrell. Kennard.
Here, Wayne County, Wayne, Michigan.
Bergeron.
Here.
German.
Present, Ingham County, Lansing, Michigan.
Piles. Evetts present. No, I'm missing somebody. Wester.
Thank you. I move that the Board of Education accept the meeting agenda as amended. Board members, you received the amendments. I will state them for the record. Coach Vicky with the Romulus Community Schools swim team, an update on the Torpedoes' use of facilities, a possible action item after the report of Mr. Mike Dixon, FYIs on district improvement plan, state of the school schedule, I don't know if staffing update, and districts schedule of district and community events for the week of September 27th. Unfinished business, FYI on We Rise initiative, and FYI on Merriman and possible action. Report of the board president. Action item for Ms. Sandy Gutenschwager of access to MEGS. Action item for board compensation approval. Action item for the executive administrative assistant to attend meetings. Action item for our recorded meetings. The closed meeting is removed. And the action item after the closed session is removed. So motion to accept the agenda as amended. Is there support?
Support.
Moved by Piles, supported by Evetts. Evetts, will you call the roll, please?
Wester. German,
Yes.
Bergeron. No. Piles,
Yes.
Kennard,
Yes.
Evetts is yes. Terrell,
Motion carries. The agenda is accepted as amended. Um, First, we have, is Coach Vicky with us? Oh, I didn't see you back there. Coach Vicky, for those of you who have been following our meetings and our program for a few years, um, Coach Vicky came to us as the coach of a competitive swim team and started bringing them into our facilities and working with them here. And Dr. Edmondson, one of the things that he had brought to us was wanting to get our students in our pool and teaching them how to swim. And so they've been working together on that. But this year, for the first time, we are going to add a swim team as an MHSAA athletic program here at the high school. So I just invited Coach Vicky, if you'd just come up to the podium and tell us a little bit about that, please.
Real simple. My name is Vicki McTall. I have been working with pools, aquatics for quite a number of years. And when I came here before COVID, they were nice enough to let me coach my team here. So a year and a half later, I come back to try to do the same thing and get my kids caught up. I came and asked to rent the pool again, but we had some problems with that. There was no chlorine, and there was some other things going on with the pool, so very understandable, me being who I am with aquatics. So I met Dr. Edmondson for the first time in person, and he told me about his vision about having a swim team here again. And I hoped that I would be a part of it. And then Dr. Edmondson made me a part of it, which was awesome because today was the first day that the swim team was in the water. It was only 4 that showed up because, like I told them, I had to be here. And so tomorrow we should have hopefully the whole 16 that signed up. And these are girls and boys that signed up because we missed the window for the women, the young ladies to swim, and we had to have that in August. So now the boys' season is coming up, and that's end of November. And Dr. Edmondson has graciously allowed me to have 5 days a week, like 4 to 5:30, swimming these kids in the water. Hallelujah. I want to just say thank you, Dr. Edmondson, because what I seen today out of the 4 that did come was great. Now, we have only one small issue with some of them. Some of them can't afford bathing suits right now. And Dr. Edmondson has gave, I think her name, Clarissa, permission to order swimsuits, goggles, caps for the team. So that won't be an issue in a minute, but for the meantime, we'll work something out. I have suits that was donated to me from the Girl Scouts, and I'm sure we can work something out until the other suits come in. He also has a program with the elementary and middle school, which will be starting in October, somewhere around the 11th. So that'll be the elementary school, 3rd grade to 6th grade, and then we'll have the middle school. Now, each group will have their time in the pool, and we're hoping that through Dr. Edmondson giving me permission to have my swim team in the pool, that we may have a feeder program for the high school so that all year round the kids will be able to swim. If some want to compete, then fine, they can compete. But this is a USA swim team, and I'm hoping Dr. Emerson may say the Eagles could be a USA team. But we'll see. That has to still be talked about. But as it stands right now, we have an opportunity for Romulus High School to be on the map with a high school swim team. Boys start in November, and August of next year, girls will start. And I'm honored and happy to be the coach. If there's any questions or anything about it, feel free.
Thank you, Coach Vicki. Board members, does anyone have any questions or comments for Coach Vicki?
This is Kennard. I do have a comment to make, and that is, I do remember you when you came before the board. I think 2 years ago,
Yes,
and you came with us with the idea of the swim team because I think it was from was it hype or something if I'm
yeah,
not
I had
mistaken.
came from height.
Yeah. And so you came before the board, and you presented the opportunity of Romulus, having the opportunity with our students being a part of the swim team and a purpose. And so I'm happy to see that you came back before us. And listening to what you're saying, you've added additional program, which is going to be even greater, particularly with the high school, being competitive, U.S. team with the boys starting out first, and I think you said November of this year, correct?
Yes,
And then the girls next year.
yes.
So then with the opportunity that they will have uniforms and so forth. So thank you very much for coming back before us and wanting to be a part of our district and utilizing our swimming pool and utilizing us advancing in the program for our students. Thank you.
Oh, you're more than welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Kennard. Is there anyone else?
I just want to thank you, Ms. McTall. Your passion is always on display, and you have got to be, I would say, persistence beats resistance. I always used to say that in college. And you've been very persistent. I think you've been very professional throughout the entire time, COVID included. But I thank you, and I think we're in the right direction with the four of you running the middle school, high school, and elementary program and being the feeder. I think you and I share that vision, so thank you again on behalf of all the students and those in our community.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Thank you. So this is just a new program that's already been approved by the district, so it's a formality for the board to approve this. If there's a motion. It's on the, it's on, no, it's here. Okay, so I move that the Board of Education approve the MHSAA swimming as a new RCS athletic program. Is there support?
Support, Kennard.
Roll call, please.
Kennard,
Yes.
German,
Yes.
Bergeron, Terrell, Wester, Piles,
Yes.
Evetts, yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next, what we have you. So, Vicki, you spoke about coming to us with the Torpedoes, the competitive team, and how you being in our pool created interest as our students saw you, and they saw at the high school here. But Dr. Edmondson came to us, saw our pool, and had the vision to open it up to our elementary school students and so they could learn how to swim. And Miss Vicky has offered our students and community members in the past, like a discounted rate. So it is a good thing to have. A lot of our families don't have the opportunity to take swimming lessons, so I'm glad that Dr. Edmondson, you brought that to us as a district initiative and put it in our recruiting materials, and that you are here to help us with that. I did want to know the dates that those programs start for the torpedoes and for any of our students who want to try out for that.
Okay, the high school started today. I had 4 people that showed up. We spoke about me not being there for the full time because I had some other things to do, and they'll be in the pool tomorrow, full force. I will try them out, critique them, find out what we need to do with them, and then go forward. The torpedoes, Dr. Edmondson has gracefully allowed my team to come to the pool. And that was their regular hours, from 6 to 7:45. They get out and be out the building by 8. And I want to say that any of the high school swimmers that with their class schedules and the different things that they do, it's already been put to them, from my words, that if they can't make all the practices right now on time and everything because things are going forward, they always have the opportunity to come down at a later time and do their practice with the club. So it would be a twofold when they swim with others who have certain skills, that's building their skills, because kids teach kids. So I'm looking at that effort on that.
Thank you. What ages are their torpedoes?
Oh, they start from age 3 to 18.
Okay. And that's your competitive team, and our students can participate in that also, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Any other questions? Mr. Garland?
So it's been 21 years since we built the pool. And the only way to maintain a pool perfectly is to get all the chemicals right, get it perfect, and then freeze it. The other way is you have to utilize it. It is extremely difficult and, oddly enough, very costly to maintain a pool when no one is using it. So I'm very excited that Ms. McTaw has been able to get this moving. It's going to help with the life of the pool, with sustaining the pool, and the usage of the pool. I have felt for so long that that has sat as a pariah because it's beautiful and it's a really nice facility. People who we walk through, we always walk them through. Yeah. We show them it. So I'm really excited for Romulus. A few years back, we did teach a lot of our 3rd graders to swim when Mr. Belcom was here, and that was awesome. But one of the highlights this summer, and I just want to say this, was when Dr. Laws, let me correct that, Sophia had instituted the program for our kids to swim, and the laughter and the joy that was in that pool area. And now we get to hear it every day. So I'm very excited for this swim program.
Thank you, Mr. Garland. For Mr. Garland, for building use, which category does this fall under? Would this be parallel to like our wrestling and our flyers where they provide their own insurance?
Yeah. Well, her swim team is part of our school. Okay. So that'll be insured by the school through the school, and we'll have all the same privileges and restrictions that our school teams have. Now, her other team, our feeder program, the program that's going to really boost it, she already got her information. She always has her insurance up to date, and so we just need to just get those building use form filled out for the year, and that way that guarantees her that spot, and no one's coming in and taking the spot or utilizing the spot other than her.
That's And is that cost just the cost of the insurance?
Her cost will be her insurance uh, in two categories. One, we like to see 75% of the students be Romulus students, but because she's a coach and going to utilize that, we're going to be able to have her fold her program into ours. And so I don't feel it would be right to try to build a program and then charge a fee for something that sits vacant all the time.
Right. Excellent. Are there any other questions from board members? So this was just an update. I guess we don't need an action on this, but thank you for the update, and thank you for helping us build not only a school program, but also for those students who would like to do competitive swim and they're not in high school yet, for doing that, and just for opening it up for our community, for our children to learn how to swim.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all very, very much. My heart goes out to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have a presentation. It is a financial update status report from Mr. Mike Dixon. Our audit has officially started. I think we're about 2 weeks in.
Thank you for the opportunity. I will try to address where we are and some of the struggles that we're running into. And before I do that, I just wanted to go over a couple of things from the last meeting that were just troubling a little bit. First of all, I mentioned this before, the open communication is the key to things. We got to keep trying to improve that. We got to keep trying to get it towards the center so everybody's a 5. And remember too that when you're communicating, it's the demeanor in which you do that that really delivers the message one way or the other. Okay, last board meeting, some issues I'd like to clarify. First, this is way out of my whack, but somebody mentioned you were looking for a physics teacher, okay? And I guess they're hard to find. I know they're hard to find. But I mean, other than using a sub who must be actually terrified of a physics books if they're an English teacher or something, I mean, why isn't early college or dual enrollment or online or something doing? My daughter just took physics online, so just a thought. Now I'll get out of there. But I do want to get back to some of the finance related things, especially the conversation we had with the grants after the presentation by Marie Miller last week, 2 weeks ago, okay? The whole contention of using the non-reoccurring revenue sources that you're getting from these ESSER grants on reoccurring expenditures is just a time bomb, okay? So if you're building a bunch of supplies, excuse me, not supplies, but wages and things of that nature into these grants, at some time or another the grants are gonna expire, okay? And my doubt that you're coming up with megabucks to, I would question whether you come up with the bucks to support the teachers that would expire because of the grant, all right? So, sustainability is what it's basically called, and it's a big issue. The comment about making the place, the district, a destination district is a very good concept and good plan. Lay it out on a plan and go at it. But I would just caution you that, having a high wage district doesn't make you a destination district. You got to have something else that grabs people there. Okay, the other thing that, and I had to go back and grab the minutes, or not the minutes, but the resolutions for this. There was that whole confusion on the director of finance position and the posting of it, all right, and something about the board tying up everybody's hands and not giving them the leeway to do what they needed to do to post. So I went back at it, because that's the second time I've heard that. And I went back and I read the resolution, and basically it says, therefore be it resolved that Dr. Benjamin Edmondson will post the open director of finance position no later than Friday, August 6, 2021, in a manner consistent with board policies and administrative regulations concerning the posting of open positions. So The only thing that was restrictive was the next comment, that he create the posting using the language contained in the job description attached to this motion in its entirety and without alteration. So the job description was one piece. Don't change that. Use whatever policies you need to put the thing back together and get it out. If you'd have done that, you probably would be 4 to 5, 6 weeks ahead of, 4 weeks anyway, ahead of where you are right now. Couple of comments on the budget. I know some people have asked me a little bit about that. The budget in the system, and this is not a concern, okay, it's just a comment, appears to be what the actual expenditures were for last year rolled over. That's good. It's better than rolling over the budget, okay, because your actual expenditures are probably closer to being realistic than what the budget was. All right. Now, we don't do anything with it, and it would be a waste of time to do anything with the budget at this point in time. Everybody's budget is pretty much loaded. There are some questions for things that are probably coming through on some of the new grants that aren't in there yet. But the budget would be amended after the audit is finalized and you get to actual expenditures in there. Then you go in and amend the budget. Otherwise, it's kind of a waste of time. But most people should be functioning pretty well. I mean, I've had just a few comments on it. Okay, the other thing I wanted to do was, there just being a strong tendency in the organization to play what I call what is the blame game, all right? You know, it's not my fault, somebody else's fault type of stuff. And it's such a waste of energy, such a waste of industry. I know when I go, particularly when I'm dealing with deficit elimination plan districts, and I'm not dealing with those anymore, there is a blessing in that. I mean, for the districts I meet. Okay, one of the things I've always tried to do is just come in and try to figure out where you are, like where you are too, okay, where the district is, solidify that, and move it to point B. I don't care who or why or what got you to that point, but everybody else uses that as a deflection point, and it becomes harder and harder to identify where you truly are, because we want to play a little bit of a blame game, and you know, this so-and-so would have done this, something done that. Okay, get to solidified where you are now and move to point B, all right? While you're moving to point B, you'll correct all these things that, you know, somebody was supposed to do and didn't do. Hopefully you do that. All right, let's take a look real quickly at some of the, what I said was in the past, in the last, not last meeting, the last meeting? 2 meetings ago, okay? The June 30th, 2021 audited financial statements, 20 audited financial statements were about 3 months late, okay? And I mentioned to you in there they had numerous material weaknesses, more than a dozen anyway, anyway, excuse me. And for non-accountants, that's, you know, it's kind of your records are in disarray, your internal controls aren't working, your processes don't work, board policies aren't being followed. And then I talked a little bit about 2 significant material weaknesses that were a concern to me, and that was the purchasing compliance with Michigan and federal government. Both have bid compliance laws, along with Board of Education policies, which aren't being followed, all right? The district failed to submit an audit in a timely manner because the records are in such a disarray. The state withheld 2 months of state aid. Meanwhile, the board still isn't getting any monthly financial reports. And there's the key, okay? So after the audit was done, now what was the plan for the business office? Okay, you've got this situation here, and believe me, it's a crisis situation. What was the plan? I've asked that a couple of times. I get no response, and I can only assume that there wasn't one. All right, so you walked into a crisis or whatever, you have in front of you, and then nobody sits down and tries to develop a plan to move from point A to B. You know where A is because the auditors just told you where it was. What was the plan to get to point B to correct these? I guess that's a little troublesome. There's going to be a couple other ones in here too. In January of 21, still trying to recollect what happened before, the district's attorneys recommend that the district bring in a business office consultant, and they do. Okay, he's a very capable and knowledgeable one. Additional accounting support was hired, a retired accountant from RISA. And in March, okay, just maybe 2 months, not even 2 months, okay, the consultant's terminated. In his last status report, he refers to the business office as the train wreck. It's the biggest mess he's ever seen in his career. The department lacks the skills, knowledge, experiences, that's called SKE, and continues to create its highest level of internal control violations. The district cannot produce reliable, accurate, or timely financial reports. Now you're 9 months into the fiscal year, all right? Now what I want to do is I want to take just a minute and defend the current staff, okay? Because the people that are in there have very little training. They have no knowledge of Board of Education policies. No one even knows what an administrative regulation is, okay? And so for people that don't know what an administrative regulation is, you have a board policy that says this is what you should do. The administration regulation is how you do that board policy, okay? So I'm sitting there almost in total disbelief that they don't even know how to check or balance anything, okay? So if you're thinking about coming down hard on them, that's a little premature, and I don't think it's very fair. Okay, they have absolutely or not no knowledge, but very little knowledge of the state of Michigan accounting manual, and they're very dedicated people at what they think they're doing is right. Okay, they really do, and they just need a lot of guidance, and when you give it to them, they soak it up. Okay. So now, after the termination of Sovi, you've got another point here. So now what's the plan for the business office? I don't know. Still doesn't seem to be one. So you got two crisis situations. One's the audit, the other the contractor that you were using to try to correct some things for you being thrown out, and you still don't have a plan. The office has its staff now, an accountant from RISA acting as an interim director, all right? I'm not sure what management experience she had, but my understanding is she was basically an accountant at RISA. But even if she's really good, it's really highly unlikely that an individual would stop that train wreck by June 30th. In August, the accountant resigns, and an opportunity exists. So now back to my other question. What was the plan for the business office? There still isn't one. All right? So what do you get? In August, the Board of Education retains the services of Sandy and me as approximately 1 FTE, not 2 people, okay? And we were here to help find a new director, transition that person, work on some internal controls, and Sandy was going to do the interim business office responsibilities, okay? We weren't planning on cleaning up your accounting mess that's whatever number of years old, okay? Well, let me suggest to you that cleaning up that mess anytime soon is probably a fantasy. It's going to take you closer to 6 to 9 months to clean that up, all right? So the current situation is the district's accountant resigned. Last day was Friday, I guess. It was supposed to be this Thursday, I thought, but he probably had some vacation time or whatever. So he will be missed because he's the district's institutional knowledge and history and experience. If you had a question, that's where you had it, all right? Otherwise, you're going to spend the half hour looking through records or whatever you need to do to try to find out what it is. All right, so Sandy and I have made some adjustments and we're trying to move forward. But I want to emphasize this to you. The train wreck is still here. All right? It isn't getting cleaned up by the two of us in the next 30, 60 days. We're going to try, mostly because it doesn't get corrected easily because you have day-to-day responsibilities that you're dealing with, and the magnitude and the significant level of changes that need to be made are probably, not probably, are being met with resistance. Okay? What are you talking about? I just had somebody, I've been doing this for a large number of years, and I go, oh my gosh, you haven't been doing a report right for that many years? But anyways, it was, you know, I said, well, I'm not criticizing you. This is the data we need for the report. If you look at the data that you gave me and Sandy, you'll see several errors in it that are relatively easily identified. So back to a little bit of an accountability mode in here. Look at what you're trying to submit to somebody before you actually submit it, which then in turn requires us to spend an inordinate amount of time trying to correct things. So one of the things that dealing with what we're dealing with is really, it's almost, you know, it's almost a climate cultural thing in the organization. And things have been so out of whack for so long, you know, back to the train wreck term. And some compliance related issues like purchasing, they appear to be standard operating procedure. Okay? That's what we do. I go, oh, okay, well, there's a federal statute that says you probably shouldn't do that, but that's what we do, or a state statute, I mean. So dealing with that climate and culture is something. So I want to read something to you out of the State of Michigan School Accounting Manual. All right, and this is on internal controls. 5 components to it. The first one is a favorable control environment. The key element in a favorable control environment is administration's attitude as demonstrated through its actions. So you don't get 2 different ball games here. You speak one thing, you got to act it out. Okay? Administration must lead by example, creating a tone at the top that sets the standards for the entire organization. The importance of internal controls must be communicated to staff at all levels, and there must be swift and appropriate disciplinary actions for employees who violate those standards of conduct. Okay, so let's get back to the current situation. Locating documents is a very serious concern, a very serious concern. All right, and if I've ever seen anything like with people looking in 5 different directions, it's that because, first of all, they probably never heard of the document, and a lot of times they simply aren't in any of the systems even after we search. All right, there needs to be a level 5 clearance in MEGS for Sandy. It's extremely important. She needs to be able to access grants so she can do the work that she needs to do in the accounting area. Now, I don't mind if, for example, David Cooper's got a level 5 because he's really your grants administrator, all right? And if your other one's Margaret, I'm not so sure why she needs to be one. And if she ever had to get in there for somebody, she probably would realize real quickly that she doesn't want to be one. But anyways, Sandy needs to be a level 5. And back to what I just read to you, the current administrative structure doesn't appear to be conducive to preparing any type of efficient type of audit. Our target for the audit is still to be completed by November 1 deadline. That really remains to be seen if that will come to fruition. There's way, way too many issues. We'll seek some support from the auditors like you have in the past, but we're still shooting for that date. Meanwhile, the district's seeking a director of finance. We're working on a forensic audit. And today I got a call from Ed Dolan. Okay, I don't know if you guys know Ed Dolan or not, but he's the owner of Exilio. And they provide our transportation and I believe our custodial grounds and maintenance work. And somebody called me this afternoon who wanted to know where to send his contract addendums for the contract price increases he incurred as a result of having to give his employees a pay raise to keep the employees on board. And that was after the superintendent apparently said he was going to give everybody a $4 an hour raise, and the board turned it down. All right? Well, it's something. Okay, well, that could not be true. That's what he was telling me, all right? So whatever happened there, all right, and I think if there's some combination of things in there, you really got to be careful of dual employment violations, all right? So you check with your legal counsel on that, because that's as far as I want to go. But he's not real happy about what happened there. So if we're promising people that don't work for us something that we can't give them, we should be really careful of that. It's like, if I could use a simple example, you could go into McDonald's and ask the young man or young lady behind the counter how much you make an hour, and they go $10. Says, well, I think you got to make 12, and start raising a fuss in there until the manager throws you out. You aren't anything to Exilio except a customer. You buy his services. Okay, that's all the district is to Exilio, and you have to keep that in mind. Okay, now here's one that just exasperated me last week. All right, we've identified numerous credit card related issues. So we don't get into, kind of the comment that we get every once in a while about who let somebody do their job or whatever that comment is, okay? I want to read the policy or parts of the policy. Okay, the school district cards for overseeing compliance with this policy, the superintendent shall assure that the card is being used by the person. Okay, the card is only used for purchase of goods and services for official business of the school district. No purchasing for personal uses. An employee of the school district has been issued a card shall submit to the superintendent a contemporaneous report dealing with goods and services purchases, the date of the purchase, the cost of the purchase, and the school district related reason for the purchase. Okay, so I went over the credit card statements, and I started with the last few months, and I get to March, and there are some issues in there. I want to suggest to you there are some issues in there. And when I go back out to the front office and I ask them for the March statement, they say, you have it. I said, yeah, I got the credit card statement. Where's the backup? There is none. From September to March last year, not one administrator submitted one invoice for the purchases they made on the credit cards. All right? That's a problem. A serious problem. So we're trying to tighten up the purchasing procedures to bring them in compliance with the state and federal statutes, the Board of Education policies, administrative regs. We're trying to tighten up the credit card purchases to conform with Board of Education policies and administrative regs. All right? And while we get consumed doing that, we're not doing the audit. We're not doing the day-to-day stuff. All right? And I get really nervous every time something I have to look into, because I have a fear that it is similar to the purchasing issues that we have and or similar to the credit card issues that we have. All right? And I go, I don't even know what I want to look at. So I want to suggest a few things to you here tonight. First of all, I think that the board should hire an outside investigator to review the purchases subject to possible bid or administrative reg violations and investigate the credit card situation. That needs to be brought under control, and I don't see it being done internally. The second suggestion is, and I talked a little bit about, I think it was in the Finance Committee, I would suggest the Board of Education begin to approve the federal POs and RECs which exceed $5,000 to stay in compliance with administrative regs. All right? You don't do that, but it's one of your administrative regulations. So I asked the county, I said, why don't we do it? And they look at me, what's an administrative reg? They had no idea what that was. So I would suggest that we simply put those, we list them, so we don't bring everything to a halt, and approve them on the consent agenda. All right? And let's keep moving as quick as we can. The other thing I would suggest, and this should enhance communication, I've done this a couple times before, is that the Board of Education create a bill review committee to review and check, to review the check register prior to each board meeting. So in general, or answer questions. So in general, what it does, it consists of the treasurer as the consistent person. And every 4 months, 2 board members rotate onto the committee so that over a period of a year, everybody on the board has been on the bill review committee. So it's your opportunity to ask the administration your questions about checks or whatever else is going on in the world. And if you get the questions to them beforehand, they'll probably have time, depending on how many you have time to answer the questions for you at the meeting, okay? It's a simple process. It'll drive you crazy for a while, but after you get comfortable, okay, because there's not that comfort with between the administration and the board on what's going on, and disband the thing, because it's a pain in the, you know, wherever it is a pain. But it'll really help you understand what's going on in the organization, because you'll have an hour, whatever it takes, before a board meeting to ask questions, to actually look at information that's being supplied, answer more questions. And so for the 2 people that sit on it for a 4-month period of time, the other 4 board members simply submit their questions to them, and they bring them to bill review for you. So the other 4 board members aren't left out at any point in time. They just aren't on the committee until their 4-month period's up. All right, it's something I think would really help you. I really do. All right, so let me recap for you here. So in the last year, on 3 different occasions, the administration had an opportunity to correct the business office situation, the director, whatever, and actually did nothing. All right, now, my guess, if Sobey was still here, the consultant you had, he probably would have you squared away by now if he hadn't been let go. Okay, the saying that, you know, that we have and we hear, and that's the audience too, but from the board is, let them do their job. I hear that all the time from the board members and from the audience too, but I don't know whether they're parroting what's going on. But I want to suggest to you where that comment is. That's a move from my perception of sitting through 3 of your board meetings to allow the administration to avoid any sort of accountability whatsoever. Oh, you don't? Okay, well.
Okay.
Well,
hang on,
that's
guys.
fine. You can
Okay.
feel the way you want about me.
Okay, point of order.
Yeah. Do you have questions?
We're gonna have a time for comments.
Oh, we got questions. I'm open for
Do you
questions.
want, okay,
Yep.
okay, so. Does anyone have a question? Ms. Wester?
The same rules that we put out for public comment, when we have people come up for public comment, should go for the person that's doing a presentation as well. Because to me, it's like a slap in the face saying that we didn't do or things weren't being done.
They aren't.
Let
I'm
me
sorry.
talk, I'll let
Sure,
you talk.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, just
So,
let her finish.
I'm just saying, we asked the public not to do attacks, not to make certain comments. And it's like this board is being attacked when we were doing things. It may not have gotten done, like you said, it's not gonna get done overnight.
We didn't fire anybody. Their contract was up in terms of the length of time that Mr. Sovey was here. So, yes, there are things that can be done to get corrected. We were trying to move in the right direction to get the finance department done.
Okay.
So yes, when the comments said we're being held up because everything has to come to the board when the policy changed, for the board to approve a new position to be posted, that's what we were saying. Yes, the board made that, and we didn't understand why everything has to come to the board, because I've been saying this all along. It's a current position. Why do we always have to bring things back? You're talking about money being spent, about doing this and doing that. We're spending money giving you and Sandy dollars.
Yep.
And we don't have an end date the way we had for a previous consultant that was in here. So there's a lot of misconception on both sides. And what you're saying that's not 100% accurate of what you're saying.
One other thing I can tell you about the contract with the consultant was that Ben said he had to let him go. I mean, Dr. Edmondson said that to me. He had to let him go.
Oh, I'll speak on that. He was capped. And the board also said to me, we're not trying to, we've already spent 50,000.
Okay.
Okay. But Don Sobey was an excellent guy. I don't have any problem with that.
Well,
Okay, now,
you'd be squared away.
For me, it was also, I saw what he wrote. There's a millage going on that we had to prepare for.
Sure.
And in my role, as I said, and I've told you, Mr. Dixon, this isn't my expertise. Okay, if we want to go back, let's talk about since September, since he mentioned September through March. I think that's ironic that that's when I came, or maybe August. This board should know that in a board brief in September, I informed everybody that we had problems. I did it week after week after week, and I said it needs to be addressed. I am not a finance director, but it needs to be addressed. You know what support I got? Zero. Zero. Instead, I had a Title IX grievance against me because I did bring it up. But I'm not taking this personal. I do believe that there are things that we can do, but I think we need to understand we've had 5 people in there. Angela Rudolph, we don't even talk about her anymore. She was here for 2 years. Don Sobey, Jewel Clare, Sandy Gutenschwager, and Mike Dixon. What could we possibly expect? And before I got the job, I knew that we had 12. I saw, okay? And actually a board member did give me the audit. I know somebody said that they didn't. A board member can truly admit to giving me the audit from 2019, or was it 2018-19, okay? In which the auditor came to the board and said, you have a problem. See, it's not like I don't know these things. I just stay kind of quiet and I keep them to myself. But this board was approached by Raymond, Yo and Yo, who said that they were concerned with the qualifications of the people that are in the business office. Did they know what they were doing? Okay, I've addressed those things. Okay, this isn't something that people are just turning a blind eye to, but let's look. Okay, we just, as Mr. Dixon said, we just lost a historical knowledge, somebody who had the knowledge, but also understand why that person left. Okay, which we're not going to talk about until later. I know it's going to come up, but the reality is that there are internal issues. We have 2 people now that I don't think have the expertise, as Mr. Dixon said, the expertise in finance, Jemana, and we also have Sarah Khan. So really, we don't even have, that's bare bones at this point. And it's hard to get somebody, but at the conference, I was talking to somebody who's going to help me get somebody, because this is about relationships. So that's all. There's no offense. It's just September to March. If there's a forensic audit or there's an audit too, okay, why are we going September? That seems a little bit odd to me. Okay, it seems really, really odd. If we're going to do that, okay, you don't have to tell me what's going on. I can figure it out, but I will address that as well.
Well, I guess, that just adds to my question more than if Yo and Yo told you that before Raymond, that it's now 2 years old.
Probably longer
Well, okay. So is that, back to what I said, that's just standard operating procedure? I mean, I think you've been doing this so long, it is.
But like I was saying, yes, you don't want us to say it was because of X, Y, Z. You want us to say what we're going to do. And like Dr. Edmondson said, when he came in here in September, one of his first board briefs to us said, there are issues in the finance department, which he said, we're going to start to work on. We started, and then no sooner than he started letting us know some of the things that was going on by the information that he was getting, that he had requested, that it did not look the way it should. That's when he got hit with a Title IX.
Okay,
So we go through that stage. Then we get Mr. Sovey in, who brought in Miss Claire. I'm not sure what time frames. I just know who came.
He came in December.
You know, so he came in December. We started moving Mr. Dixon to get into the right way. We started moving to correct things. Okay? But yes, Mr. Sovey got capped. He was capped at what the board was going to do. So that reference there in terms of us firing him and letting him go, that really irks me.
well, I'll take that back then. That's the impression I got from Dr. Edmondson.
Right.
He's the one that told me to
right.
let him go.
He was capped out at
Okay.
what we were going to pay him as a consultant.
Okay, I'll take that back.
So-
That's not the way I read that.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, given
I-
the time and the duties to do what needs to be done, it's like we all know it's not going to happen overnight. We're making those steps. We had Ms. Claire in there. We're posting for a finance director. You're not getting people in because now you're at the beginning of the school year. People aren't coming in. We're doing our due diligence. But at the same time, people don't like to hear it. When we start to get micromanaging, we start to get in the weeds of things, and it takes away from the day-to-day operations. Like you said, if you're looking at a credit card statement, well, I don't know you are, it takes away from doing your day-to-day operations, which also takes away when we're getting 5,000 emails of, I need this, I need this, I need that. People can't do their jobs 100% the way they should. You understand what I'm saying? You're getting a request for this. If I sent you 5 million emails and say, hey, Mr. Dixon, I need this, I need this, I need this, you'll never be able to get the job done that you're supposed to get done because you're answering my questions.
Well, I think that's what the board review committee, bill review committee would do for you. I mean, I really think that would help you get to that point where the questions that are coming at whoever it happens to be for whatever reason would be answered through the bill review committee, and you get it squared away, and you try to keep it from taking away from the day-to-day operations of people, all right? But I'm still going to go back to, well, to some extent, it takes away from the day-to-day operations of people because somebody's still going to be answering some questions, but at a point in time, it diminishes. But I still sit there and think you're inching towards it, all right? And a lot of stuff could have been corrected very simply, okay? No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about with the business office and some of the.
That's what I'm talking about.
What? Okay. I'm sorry.
In terms of making corrections,
Oh.
when it was brought to the attention, when we were asking people to do the right, people got stuck, and then you didn't want to, because they didn't know what they were doing.
If I may, let's just if we can move on. The one thing that I would say is that you and I both know the reputation of Romulus. I knew that when I applied here. It's not a great one, okay, for multiple reasons, okay? I'm sure you know that. If you haven't been out there, okay? Same way I know the reputation of East Point. I'm very aware of it, okay? There's a reputation that's out there. We don't have the bandwidth on certain things, okay? I came in, and I did share with you and others, I came from a district with 0 findings, 0. So let's not pretend I don't know what that looks like, because that's when I said we got issues. Okay, Title IX thrown on me, we didn't talk about it. Title IX, and that's why the attorney said you need to bring in Don Sovey to give you help because you don't have the resources. So I'm a little bit disappointed in what I hear because all the information has not been presented, but some assumptions are thrown out there. Thrown out there, blaming the administration. You say that let us do our job. I've said it, let me do my job, okay? I didn't say I was a director of finance to do that job too, okay? But I just feel that you've been here, you see we only have 2 people here. Okay, this is a systemic, deep problem.
Okay, so I want to go back to what I said before when Sylvie left. You capped him, or capped him out, or whatever, and if that's what happened. So when you capped him
Did
out,
we renew him with a second contract? So we had one contract with Sovey, and he finished that, but there was more work that we needed done. So then we entered into a second agreement.
okay, an
And-
addendum?
And then he
Okay.
finished that, and then he presented to us a list of the next phase. Yes, a list of the next phase, but at that time, that's when Dr. Edmondson was going to be going out, and we were talking about zero-based budgeting, and so it was the timing of it and where we were going, and we were, so, yes.
Okay,
So
okay.
he capped out, and then we renewed it, and then he capped out there, and we didn't renew it because Dr. Edmondson was going out on leave, and as he stated, and there's a lot going on in our finance department, and so there wasn't that cohesive
Well,
group.
okay, but that, I guess it just feeds into my point. So he capped out, whatever. I'm sorry if I said he got fired. I thought I was under the impression that it was, or he's let go. So he got capped out, and it's superintendent's going on medical leave or whatever. What is the plan when he's capped out? Where was the plan?
I think if I would say the plan was at that point, we had Jewel Clare, who had a firm understanding. I believe Jewel had the credentials, and we were told as well that she could be a school business finance person or director. So she was the interim until we could find somebody. But it was like, hey, we have Jewel here who's been doing this work for 2 months, and she's been doing work in the district prior to that, but she had an understanding, okay? You know, leadership style, I'm not going to talk about someone else's leadership style, but, you know, Jewel was here. We were comfortable with the way things were going. We were addressing some things. When you have 12 findings, you know you're not going to get them done in a year. It's not going to happen. And we had an interim, and she wanted the interim tag. She said, I'm not sure I want to stay here. So, it's just deep. You are right in some respects on some of the findings, no doubt. But then there's the story, and without the story, this is what happens. This is what is presented without the story. And I was going out, it has nothing to do with it, but yes, I was going out on medical leave in March.
Oh, okay. I didn't know whether you're doing that or not, but it's back to the plan. Okay, and if it was let to Jewel, continued on with it, then who was monitoring whether or not the issues you had back in November with the audit were actually taking place, were being corrected? That's a plan. That's the plan you're looking for. You simply lay out, here's material weakness number 1, okay? What is it? What are we going to do to correct it? And then who's responsible for it? People shuffle in and out, that's fine. Here's the plan. Your name just shuffles in and out on the sheet. That's what I'm talking about. Just letting somebody continue on isn't necessarily a plan. I guess that's where I might have
So,
messed up
Mr.
there.
Dixon, I want to say that after that audit, in the audit report, we had corrective action plans for each one of our
I know.
findings. And so there was that plan and the who was responsible, what it looked like. Since you've been here, have you seen that? Did you pull that
Yeah.
up? And did you do any progress monitoring to see where we are with that?
First of all, yeah, I did read that. You attach that to the audit. You need that to submit to the state.
'cause we
It's
had
your
that.
corrective action plan, okay? And if you read it, all right, you left everything on the accountant. Pretty much everything on the accountant, not anybody on the interim. But even more importantly, who monitored it? See, what I'm dealing with now is history. I mean, June 30th is past. I can't change those numbers. I can't deal anything with them other than try to put them together so they're reportable. So you submit a corrective action plan. Who monitored it? Because if you look at it, I would suggest to you that there was maybe a lot of goodwill wishes in there, maybe. I mean, you're writing a plan to get by the state, maybe. Not necessarily something that would become a reality, but you still got to monitor it. It's part of a whole planning process. You know, plan, monitor, direct, and control. Go ahead.
Okay, I pulled up Don Sovey's last letter. Okay, so just a few bullet points from there. A very important meeting on the budget amendment was scheduled for 1 p.m. on Friday, March 5th, to determine input assignments from principals and supervisors for the amendment. The meeting was canceled without my input the morning of March 5th via email from the district HR director. Because of this cancellation, I believe the desired amendment date of March 22nd will now be very difficult to attain, as needed steps cannot be timely met in order to produce an accurate budget based on good input. Then he goes on to say it's a train wreck. As a licensed certified public accountant, I am unable to participate in the presentation of any document that is not based on sufficient factual information with sound input and in compliance with the Uniform Budgeting and Accounting Act. I was informed by you via an email March 4th. I am organizing for my brief departure, which includes a few of the matters you wish to address. We will not be implementing zero-based budget this year due to time constraints and lack of district leadership and expertise on the process, even though we made a motion to go to zero-based budget. That's my comment. We will spend the necessary time implementing the process next year. This March 4 email communication provides information that is absolutely within the purview of the district and is a management decision. Because of this new direction, as well as citing of the above contractual areas not being followed by the district, I do not see a clear path on how I can contribute to the better good of the district. Accordingly, I am now withdrawing from the engagement. He withdrew.
Oh, he withdrew.
We
Okay.
didn't fire, but he withdrew because he was not getting any input from me.
That's incorrect, because he got, I told him before March 5th, before that email, I told him that he wasn't going to return, and I stated why. Now, if I have to find it, I'll be glad to find it. But I thought it was interesting that he sent that March 5th, when earlier I had said that we have to terminate. Okay? Now, let us be true here. I think everybody would understand finance is an issue for this board. It has been an issue. People were complaining that we were paying them $25,000, which I had no problem. I'm like, good people cost money. And when we start to understand that, then maybe we will see some change in direction. Good people that do good stuff, they cost money, not on the cheap. So when we got to $50,000, another $25,000, there was a complaint. Do we forget that as a board? Okay, Pete, you weren't here for that, and Ms. German wasn't here for that. But we do remember that that was an issue that, then you hear the rumbling. We're paying this guy $50,000 to do that. Well, you know what? It doesn't look so bad at this point. Okay, but I sent him an email prior to that because I was told, we don't want to pay him anymore. It costs too much. Okay, whether people admit that or not. Now, this motion about zero-based budgeting, I don't remember that because I was definitely against that. I said it takes too much time. We can't do it. We don't have the bandwidth to do that. It was his suggestion, absolutely, but I'm like, we can't get that done. And I knew I was going out for a good 6 to 8 weeks. Just knew we couldn't do it, and we didn't have the bandwidth. We didn't have the people to do it. But I'd like to see that motion if it's out there.
Well, I don't know what motion, you're talking about zero-based budgeting? Oh, okay. I mean, that would have, seriously, if you'd implemented that, you probably wouldn't have a lot of the situations that you do. I mean, it's possible you wouldn't have those situations. I wouldn't say that for sure. But, okay. So, I mean, plans are extremely important. And when I talk about a plan, I'm talking about designing it, implementing it, monitoring it, controlling it through execution. All right? And I guess I probably should have made that clear before. So you've got the plan, plans to leave Jewel there. Okay, who's monitoring it? Who's controlling it? Who's checking to see if, in essence, the plan that was done with your audit was actually taking place, okay? And if there's another part of the plan, all right, especially if you got a skills, knowledge, and experience situation, which apparently he was saying and the auditors were saying, is what is the training to bring these people from wherever they are to point B? I mean, it's kind of like it's everything just floats along. And when you do that, you don't get very far. You're just floating around.
So I would like to add and maybe move this forward. Raymond offered their services. This is what they do. They come in and they will go over. I sat down with them, as a matter of fact, said that they would sit down and
You want
see.
to kill that?
What's that?
I don't think you want to bring that up here if you're going to really.
If I'm going to what? This was previously.
Pardon me?
This was previously, not to the current one.
Okay.
This is previous. They had said that that they do that. We're not having that discussion now. I know we can't have that discussion. They're doing the audit. But one of the things that they suggested is that they come in and they will come in and do these things for you because they know what the issues are. And then my question was, well, do you terminate people that may not know how to do the job? They said, no. We want to find out what skills they have and make sure that we put them in the right places to do it. At that particular time, we had Jewel. Don was just coming off. We had Jewel. And we felt like we were headed in the right direction. But I said, I will keep you in mind for future, just in case, because I know how expensive it is to bring in a director of finance, which is not a problem. But they're doing it in Lincoln Consolidated Schools. I believe they're doing it in another school. That's always a possibility, and they've stayed in Lincoln long term. That's something that you can do where you bring in your auditor who knows what the issues are and is going to help you do that. Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, all set?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
So, Mr. Dixon, I have a question for you. Our November 1st audit deadline.
Yep. Oh,
Last year, we contracted with Raymond to do a lot of our accounting work. So our audit had, I think, an additional 30,000 to do like accounting work.
yeah, to
So-
do work other than audit work.
Right,
Yeah.
right, to kind of get us prepared. So my question is, so we're hearing that the internal controls are missing, and now we're looking at this November 1 date, and it's my understanding that, please correct me if I'm wrong, but is Sandy doing that day-to-day that we paid Raymond extra for last year? And if so, is she confident that she can have all of that done for November 1, or are we looking at a situation where we need extra help now? Is she overwhelmed?
You want to get ahead of November 1 if you can. So there's twofold of that. She's actually doing a lot of day-to-day related work and the audit related work, okay? So with, especially with Steve gone and as far as questions and things of that nature, we're running into some issues on documents and retrieving documents. And then when you do get them, the shape that they're in. We had a state report that's due, and probably about 66% of the paperwork that came to us was actually given to us, which we had to hunt for the rest of it, and then probably a good quarter of that wasn't even accurate. So that's the kind of stuff that you're dealing with. But we are going to be using Raymond, but we want to get them before the 1st. So we're making a list of things that they may be able to help us with, okay? There's a couple different things that we talked about this afternoon, so I'll send them a text tomorrow and say, those are some things that we need some help on. One of them isn't really audit related, but, so, yeah. And is the November 1st deadline in jeopardy? I really think it is, but That's not what our objective is. It's to keep moving forward. I will let you know, okay, when we're not gonna meet that, and I'll do it in a timely manner so that you're not sitting there going, well, why didn't you tell us this earlier? But it's shaky right now. It really is shaky.
Just please keep us updated, and if we need that extra support, because I believe we needed it last year and we found out late. So
You need it.
if we need it, then we need to know that we need it and what we need. So, yeah, so that we're not scrambling and being late again.
Right, right. So we're gonna just do that tomorrow. I mean, if that's, unless you guys need to do something about it, we were gonna ask them to come in and work on some fixed asset stuff, which is part of the government-wide statements and the sheets thing with the state of Michigan. It's a,
Have any of the material findings been worked on from last year or fixed? Or are they still pending?
no, some of them are fixed. I think, like I knew I should have brought a checkoff sheet. Well, like the bank recs, okay? The bank recs are fixed. The general ledger tying out is the biggest problem, okay? And it's a problem. And it's a problem with, I guess, when you look at this in accounting term, it's just called a reclassify, okay? In other words, the expense is an expense of the district. It's just not anywhere near the right account. Okay? So now you got to reclassify that. They're numerous. Numerous, all right? And if I gave you some examples of some things, you'd just sit there in total disbelief. But that's not a criticism of anybody. That's a situation you're in, and the people that are doing that simply needed to be taught why they're doing what they're doing is not correct, and this is how you should do it in the future. People do that. There just isn't any of that going on. They're not, I don't think anybody's, I don't think they are anyway, maliciously trying to mess something up, okay? I do it this way because I've been doing it that way for the last 2 or 3 years. Well, it's, you know, it's really not correct, but as soon as you tell somebody it's not correct, then the defensive mode comes up, and I mean, no matter how tactful you do it. And we had that problem this afternoon with the state report, okay? It's just it. We're in a constant battle with people trying to get data from them, and then we come back to them and says, well, this really doesn't look to be accurate, and in some cases, it simply isn't accurate. You can tell by looking at it. And so, and then they go, well, that's the way I've done it for, you know, since I've been here. Okay. Well, what we need is this, all right? And you have to work through that. That's all.
And can we work through that after the audit, though? Like that whole reclassification, because that sounds like monumental, and I know that has been going on for a long time, and it needs to be done. We never take the time to just like
You don't.
do that, but right now, is that something that can wait, and we can work on that and make that a goal for after audit, or is that something we're gonna get caught up in before the audit?
I don't want to say this publicly.
But there might not
Where,
be time.
where we are is, no, it needs to be done for the audit,
Okay.
because the auditors are going to go nuts when they look at it, okay? You know, what we reclass will be, and I don't want to say that publicly, what we reclass will be selective on, and, you know, if it's within the same function, like at the middle school,
Yeah.
if you classified something that was capital outlay and it was really a supply, we're probably not gonna move that.
Okay.
It's not okay, but that's not what there's just too many of them.
Okay.
So let me add, President Powell, so when I came in August, one person quit the day that I came in, she was out. Okay, I forgot her name, everybody knows her. She left. Then after that, our business payroll, she left. And my big concern was when I heard, oh, all the money and everybody in my cabinet can agree without me, they already know. Everything was put into one thing and we just move it everywhere. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. But then when you look and you see that you've had an accountant, and I love Stephen, but if that's what he had to work with for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. We all know, again, if you do your research on Romulus, you know the business department has been an issue here. It has absolutely been an issue. So the part that I struggle with is, let's not throw any blame on this administration when this administration informed the board that there was a problem. And there isn't. Stephen had the historical knowledge, but then Stephen looks up and he's the last person standing with any kind of background. And then he was being trained. When I came here, it was, we're going to make him the head accountant, and I'm going to train him to be a head accountant. I'm like, oh, okay. But what did I do? I called my former accountant and said, hey, what's it take to get you? He said, nah, I'm good. I'm done. I just don't want to do this anymore. So there is this history of not, if you go back to the audit, it said that there was a concern that people in that department may not have, it didn't say may not have the skills, but they may not know exactly how to do the job. Okay, I read that. I brought it up to the board too. I'm like, what are we going to do? This is a problem. So, thank you, first of all, Mr. Dixon. Thank you to the board as well. But just want to clear up some things. I do know.
I think if you trained them, you'd find something different, but, okay, we're all set? Yes. Okay.
So, so the auditors have, I just want to clear this up because I know the auditors, Daniel Clark let me know that they started and they have submitted like 15 requests, but said that our business office wasn't even able to start getting to them because of the transitioning from the accountant. Now that Mr. Baker is gone, is that transition taken place, or is there still playing catch up there? Where can we focus on audit now, or are we still trying to patch those holes?
But, two things. We're trying to refocus back on the audit. The one thing that we're trying to do is Sandy's really trying hard to finish up a state report that's due in a couple of days, okay, that gives you state funding back. So we are still trying to transition within the office itself. So Jomana and Sarah have, some additional responsibilities, and then try to work on the audit, okay? Now I'm trying to stay focused on some of the management-related things, particularly somebody's got to get in front of purchasing. It's just driving me nuts, and the same thing with the credit cards, okay? So the answer to your question is yes, we are moving towards the audit. Are we moving as fast as they want us to move? No.
Right.
No way, okay? And they know that. I'll talk to Daniel and Dan tomorrow, or I'll send them a text message or something and tell them, hey, we could use some assistance on fixed assets and on, a few other things, cheats with the state and things of that nature.
So, Mr. Dixon, where we are now is this has been many, many years. I mean, it's no secret, our finance department. So here we are now. So we need to get that plan. And I know we've got the audit, and we've got all of these things that are individual fires. Right now, how do we get out of this cycle of continuing to do this? Because I know Daniel Clark had stated to me that we need a drastic change in our finance department. And the thing is that everyone's working really hard. But there's a lot of hard work that's not necessarily
productive.
Yes, and impactful. Yes. So how do we get out of doing this and always being behind the 8 ball? Because he told me he's concerned about this November 1 date because our records are it's just in such
disarray.
Yes, it's bad. So, but then he also said that the way we've been operating in our finance department, and I'm hearing today, well, we've been doing that absent of just standard operating procedures and internal controls and purchasing policies. So, but his words to me were, we need to do something very different, or this district will not last long term, and it won't even last short term. So I don't want to just hear that. I want to know, what do we have to do so that we start doing something differently, so a year from now we're not having this same conversation and continuing to point back to this year and the year before and the year before.
Well, I think there's a couple things you can do. Number one, before you pick on the staff, somebody ought to train them, okay? And then try to make a determination of whether or not they're actually doing a job. So we're trying to pull through with that. I had a staff meeting the other day with them, okay? And I was talking to them about purchasing, and they're looking at me like, okay. And I said, you gotta watch with some of the things that are going on, so I identified it for them. And the next thing you know, I got this sheet of paper in front of me in the office, and a printout from a vendor, and I said, is this what you're talking about? I said, yeah, it's exactly what I was talking about. But as far as they didn't even have any idea that it wasn't legit, this process. You know, I mean, it's a large learning curve. But I think they're capable. That just takes more time that you don't have. So let's get through the audit. Let's visit what you need to run a good department and move forward, okay? And see what you're out 18 months. So what I do is push a plan, and I'll help you with it if you want me to, push a plan out 18 months so that you don't have these same types of conversations, all right? And you get it squared away, because you are, I don't know, I shouldn't say this. I don't know, since everything's electronic, I don't even know whether anybody at the state reads the audits anymore. I'm sure they do, but I don't know that they do. I'm surprised you haven't got comments back from them going, this is not a tenable situation, okay? If you were in a deficit situation, they'd be all over you. They would be all over you, okay? And that's where, you know, I'm not saying you're in a deficit situation, but if you get there, they're gonna make your life really uncomfortable. And at that point in time, you're gonna have to make some major decisions about what you wanna look like as an institution, okay? And whether or not you wanna try to do certain things, for example, with your support services that are outside the normal realm, and then leave your instructional services, you know, with the superintendent, the curriculum director, special ed director, and principals, and things of that nature. So, I mean, there's options out there. I don't know that we should be talking about those now,
Right.
okay?
We'll do that with the audit, but definitely please be thinking that, because what we want to do is figure out how do we need to chunk this down?
Yeah.
What is that plan? Yeah, we need a plan. What does that plan look like?
Okay.
I know you spoke about purchasing, and that was one of our findings last year. So when we talk about a corrective action plan and the progress, you know, and I know the auditors are pulling that again for this year. So
Yeah.
how do we stop making those same, is it training? Is it that we don't have
Well,
the
it's training, it's actually,
purchasing manuals, or what?
no, well, yeah, purchasing manual helps, but it's training and it's expectations, okay? And then it's simply accountability. If you're not doing it right, you're not doing it right, and you're not doing it right, and you've been told, then you just gotta start holding people accountable. There's none of that. I mean, I don't see it if there is, okay? So, the reality of the thing is go back to training, get the people up to snuff, get them to where you are, reassess where you are, and then try to make a determination of how you wanna move forward. And there's some other options out there, so that you're not doing this year after year. I wanna go back to what I said before. And if this has been going on for 2 or 3 years, it's cultural, okay? It's part of the climate and the culture of the organization. You don't change a culture tomorrow morning. Wake up and go, oh, we're gonna be something else, okay? It's massive training starting with your office people so they know what's going on, and then moving it down to the buildings, departments, administrative assistants, and so on, okay? And that's a massive effort.
Right.
It doesn't take place in the next 2 or 3 months while we're here, trying to throw your audit together. You gotta do that on top of your audit. It's chaotic. That's the only thing I can say about it. It's messy. It's really messy. And, you know, so you got a lot of things in the fire, and you don't have a lot of people. Remember, Sandy and I were only supposed to be one. I mean, between the two of us, you got 2 people, but we're only supposed to be one as far as an FTE was concerned. She was gonna work a couple days a week, and I was gonna work a couple days a week. All right, well, we're far past that now, all right? So we just gotta take one step at a time and start building it back up. So building it up is starting with the people in the office and starting to train them on certain things, okay? And have them start to catch things. And
Yeah.
and that's that simple. Then we're gonna go to step 2.
Sure.
So.
And that's good, because I mean, I think everybody knows our finance department, everybody in it works really hard. So.
Oh, no, they're
They
dedicated
do,
people.
but they came into situations that are just always behind the eight ball, even with stuff being, expenditures being coded to the wrong account. It's just, so everyone's just stuck in that. So thank you for this, but if you can, we hear that there's a big mess and there's been a big mess. But if you were to identify and help us stay on track, just like the one or two big priorities, where are you seeing the biggest problem that we should attack?
Well,
I
if
mean,
you don't
other
get
than
the
that.
staff trained, you're gonna continue to have the same problems.
Okay,
Okay, so it's staff development, all right? Then the other one is just time in the audit. And there isn't, okay. Sandy and I have a little disagreement on it until this afternoon, okay, after she ran into problems with that report. Last week when I talked to her about audit support, she says, no, I got it. I can take care of this. And I go, oh boy. And then she looked at me and she goes, this is my first rodeo, Mike. Okay. And I go, all right. And today she had a little different tone. She goes, I got a couple ideas that we can use the auditors for support with, okay? Because she doesn't realize the magnitude of what she has to do to just get something simply done. She doesn't really, she does now, and every day she learns a little bit more about how much more difficult this is gonna be. So she's at that point, and I was at it a while ago. I'm not being critical of her, because I'll tell you, from an accounting point of view, she's 3 times the accountant that I am. Okay, that's why I brought her on. Okay, so.
okay,
Anyway,
So,
any other
thank you,
questions?
Mike.
Madam President,
Yes.
lastly, Mr. Dixon said hold them accountable, and I agree, but there's only 2 people. Okay, Sarah came in November, and Jemana was just holding on. Really, there's nobody left to hold accountable there because everybody's gone. Secondly, I have a serious concern that they're gonna leave next. I think we all do in the office because, as Mike said, we don't have the bandwidth, and then we're putting more on people. And I think there's a culture there too, that let's put 3 and 4 things on them and they'll be all right. They don't, as Cooper said it, and he hasn't said it today. He said, yeah, well, did they do it good? Let's talk
Right.
about that. When we have people doing jobs in the past, they were doing 3 and 4, but they couldn't be good at all of them, and they struggled in certain areas, something we don't discuss. But
That's absolutely
that's it.
true. Yeah.
So is this where we reached out to Raymond last year and they did work? Should we reach out to, like, do we need
Yeah, I would-
accountants? What do we reach out to? EduStaff, Raymond? What?
Well, not EduStaff, maybe, but,
I mean-
my suggestion is that, yes, we do that, but the thing that I liked about Don Sovey, and I haven't seen it with Mike yet, because I don't exactly know exactly what you have him doing, no disrespect to anyone, but Don at least said, here's the plan. This is the plan I'm gonna do to get you out. This is what we have to do. We need somebody who has that expertise to say, here's the plan, and Mike has the expertise, but he's working on 3 and 4 things too. We need somebody with the expertise to say, boom, this is the plan, stick to it. Then if you're not here next year, it doesn't matter who comes in as superintendent, we got somebody who can do it. Whoever leaves, you have that plan, that blueprint. And that blueprint's gonna help you get out of this thing.
Yep, yep. Yep.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay?
I filled out a form to ask
Okay, we're not there. We're getting there though. Okay.
Oh,
you to leave though. I thought
oh, that's what I was gonna do. You wanted to ask her a question? Oh, you can't do it now because of
Ask your
procedures?
question.
well, I wanna speak, but I also wanna, before you leave, again, I ask this question continually, are we
Are we
solvent?
solvent?
Oh, you know, you said that last time.
That's what I was
Yeah.
expecting you to do tonight.
Well, okay, 2 things. I have no reason to believe that you're not, but in the position I'm in, I can't say that you are, okay? You've got too much federal money out there, and the budget that's in the system says you balanced last year by 500,000, okay? That's what's in the system, and I want to suggest to you that last year, there was $2.8 million worth of adjustments done by the auditors both ways. That just flipped your 500 into, okay? So, and I'm not saying that's going to happen this year. I really don't think that'll happen this year. But you got a fund balance, and it's $4-some million, and that should be okay. You should be okay for a while. You really should. I don't know.
You mean we only have that with getting the money, the ESSER's money, or is that?
Well, what I have not done is looked at last year's the audit, okay, from last year that says you got a fund balance, and taking the federal money, federal revenues and expenditures out of it, okay? That's what you need to do to try to get down to the nitty-gritty. But they wash, okay? So the answer to the question, if it was $4.6 million, and I can't remember what the number is, so if it's something else, all right, then that's what it was without the federal money. Because the federal money comes in, okay, and you spend it. If you haven't spent it, you don't get it. Right. So they wash. So in other words, if you got $100,000 that you spent, then the federal government gives you $100,000. They don't give you 110 or 90. Well, you don't ask for it, they'll give you 90.
No, but see, as taxpayers, sometimes we're told, okay, we've got $15 million, additional. We have $20 million additional. We have $16 million additional. I just want to know with the ESSERs and the 4.5, I mean, I want that 16 million or whatever it is that we're getting from the federal government to go toward our kids and to make our school system better.
Yeah.
And as taxpayers, that's all we want to know. Are we going to be able to do more for our kids? Are we
Okay.
going to be able to
So
do more to make this a better school system?
Yes, the answer to that question is yes. The ESSER's money that's coming in, and Dave can take. I mean, that's going to be spent on the kids to
Okay.
make things better. It's not going to balance your budget though.
Right.
Okay.
It's not going to help you. You got to remember, if you don't
That's-
spend it,
if
you don't
spend
get it.
lose it. I know
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
Yep.
So.
And I think we need to start, I don't know if we're spending it or not, but I hopefully
Well,
we are for kids.
he is, and he's developing.
Yes, I know he is, but I know he is, and I know. Are you looking at me?
I think it,
I was looking at your weight room.
the big one is the 13 million that I guess they're working on right now.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so, yeah, but that doesn't balance your budget, so
Oh, I
keep that in mind,
20% of that
okay?
has to go to learning
So
loss.
it just
So that's going right to
makes
kids.
things better for kids. It should definitely make things better. Sure.
Who's gonna do the training of the employees?
That's what, one of the things I was gonna ask.
What?
You said our employees need training.
Yeah.
Who's gonna train them?
Well, it depends on what task it is, so it's probably gonna be Sandy and me.
Reset.
Sandy, we're gonna do the training.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, as they need it. We're just gonna try to move them up to the level we can get them.
Can I speak?
Right.
If you wanna speak? Okay.
Somebody else?
Oh, wait, are you doing public comment?
No, agenda items.
Yeah, we're almost there. We gotta accept the.
Mike, I
agenda.
have a question. Mike,
Consent agenda, I'm sorry.
that's okay. Suggestions. You said an outside investigator. What is that detail?
Oh, yeah. What I think you try to do is, somebody's got to sit down and say, look at people and go, here's the November credit card statement. Where are your receipts? Okay, now I can chase that around for the next 3 months if you want me to, but I think you need somebody else to do that. Okay? Somebody else ought to look at it and go, here's the statute. Why do you keep doing this or that? Okay? And then have you write up a report and look at that. Right? That credit card is, there's probably, and I don't know that they're questionable expenditures. They just raise questions in your mind looking at the stuff that was turned in, and only half the year was turned in. The other half of the year doesn't have anything to it. So that opens up a whole can of worms. So if you have somebody come in, sit down and investigate that, I'd suggest it probably be somebody long on, not an auditor to audit it, somebody to investigate it. Actually look into it, dive down into it, try to figure out what was going on and why. Okay? Versus the auditor, I'll give you an example on purchasing. The auditor randomly selects purchases to test. Every one of them they select could have been okay. Every one of them they select could be wrong. Right, let's say they're all okay. Doesn't mean that you didn't still violate the statutes, they just didn't test those. Okay? Somebody needs to dive into that, because there's a lot of that type of stuff going on. And dig down into it and try to determine what needs to change policy-wise. I've got some administrative reg changes that I think need to be adopted, and we'll bring it forward when we get things settled down a little bit.
And then you had said the finance committee. to review, you said the federal purchase orders and regs,
There's a,
over 5,000?
yeah, in the back of your administrative regulations is a federal, state and federal guide. That's an addendum to your administrative regulations, all right? And in there, it specifically states that when you're purchasing federal supplies, materials, so on, at $5,000, it needs a rec or a purchase order needs to be approved by the board. And you just don't do that. I don't know that you've ever done it, but it's just what it says you should do. So I guess we should do it. Or, I mean, I gotta tell you not to do it if it's your rig.
Okay, and then the board, you said to create a bill review committee.
Yes.
Right now, when we get these, when we get our cash register, or check register, I'm sorry,
Right.
my understanding is these bills have already been paid. Checks
Yes.
have already gone out.
Yes.
So, will that, this committee would review these before, in actuality, the checks are mailed?
Yeah, but I think, well, yeah, you can ask questions about them. You can actually hold them if you want to until the board meeting. I don't necessarily do that. But I think it's an opportunity to open up a communication with the administration about other things too. It's just, I don't know, it's just always called a bill review. Okay, so, I mean, you can give it another name if you want to, but it's just an opportunity to enhance communication between the board and administration about things that are, you know, like you said, bombarding people with 500 requests and things. Well, you can do that to the bill committee too, and you'll kill that real quick. But that stuff would come up through there and hopefully, you know, start to develop, you know, more cohesiveness, moving you guys and gals and everybody from to a 5, okay, and in the communication part, and help alleviate some of the concerns that you have, take some pressure off your administrators with some of the concerns they have about what you're doing. I think it's just, it would really be beneficial. I've had to do it a couple of times in other districts, and it works. It really works.
Thank you. Ms. Kennard, Ms. German, sorry, we forgot about you. Do you have anything, or are you ready to move on, or do you have questions for Mr. Dixon?
No, I don't have any questions. I just think that it's a matter of the accountability part of who's progress monitoring and checks and balances. I think that that's so important when it comes to the financial piece. And I think that's where we're missing. And I think that's what causes a lot of the questions that we have and seeking transparency.
Thank you. Is Ms. Kennard still with us? Did we lose her? Okay, so, oh, is she there? Okay, so,
Yes, I am. I'm here.
are you good? We're gonna move on. Did you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions. I just want to make a comment to my fellow board members that when it comes to these types of incidences and scenarios that was brought before us, I can only share what I know I've experienced in going through these type of processes and watching and monitoring and managing individuals in this area. There's a true thing that needed here that I've always saw, and that was internal control processes that was needed. The expectations and accountability at all levels of authorization, requisitions, and knowing that the daily responsibilities, you know, of an accountant and finance people, that's general. Is your bank reconciliations, your journal ledgers, your journal entries, drawdowns, requisitions, purchase orders, credit cards. All those things are part of work responsibilities that anybody at the basic level know that they have to adhere to. And so I think that this information that's brought before us is that it's very critical that we address whatever we have to do at this point moving forward. We already know about yesterday. We already know about 3 years ago. We already know we need to look at, focus on what was presented to us, take advantage of the information that is brought to us and figure out how we can move forward. So we're not sitting here 18 months from now, 8 months from now, talking about the same thing. I just went through a hard audit myself where the general practices, internal audits, requisitions, where we had to track down, signatures, to satisfy federal government. The federal government, when they are looking at things and when they adhere to things, you don't want to go through that. Okay, we don't want to go through it. So we have an opportunity right now to do some things to show that we're moving forward, and hopefully leniency, if there's anything that's brought to us, showing that sometimes that when you're showing that you're moving in that direction. When it's time for these types of recommends from the grantors or the auditors, whatever, they look at those things. And so now we should take advantage. So whatever decision you decide to make, I just want you to know that, this is critical. It's very important that, we take it serious. Thank you.
Well, I think this is alarming, and we need to really think about the independent investigation so that things can be properly investigated. And therefore, I have this motion of Romulus Community Schools, County of Wayne, regular meeting of the Board of Education of the Romulus Community Schools, County of Wayne, Michigan, was held in the school district on the 27th day of September 2021 at 6 o'clock local time. Present members are Wester, Terrell, Bergeron, Evitz, Piles. Virtual attendance, German and Kennard. The following resolution was offered by Member Evitz and supported by, do I have support? Okay, where's it at, Debbie?
Where's that on the agenda?
Where is it?
Well, because it was depending on what the financial state of the finance department was. We have like major concerns.
Excuse me, Madam President, what's going on? We can't hear.
We're trying to, did you leave it on top here? We didn't have stuff printed when we got here, so well, the finance chair was talking
How legal is that? How'd you know this motion was gonna come?
Whereas the district's auditors, Raymond, identified numerous concerns with the management of the district's business and finances in its 1920 audit of the district's finances, finding material weakness in many of the district's internal controls over financial reporting, as well as material weakness in internal control over legal compliance. Whereas the board's concerns over the district's business office, coupled with the fact that the district has not replaced its former head of district's business office, resulted in the district retaining the services of Mike Dixon, a financial consultant from Dixon Public Consulting with over 40 years of public school district business experience, to assist the district's business office beginning in August 2021. Whereas Mr. Dixon has recently reported to the district's finance committee that he has found numerous examples of the district's business office failing to follow normal financial protocols with respect to the district's expenditures, including but not limited to maintenance of appropriate receipts and issuing several smaller invoices to one business entity for the multiple purpose of avoiding competitive bidding as required under the revised school code. Whereas the district superintendent has been notified of many of these problems in the district's business office on several occasions, but has failed to take any meaningful action to address these irregularities and improper financial practices. Whereas members of the board's finance committee are concerned with unless immediately independent action is taken, the district's business and finances will be put at serious risk, especially given the announced departure of the district's in-house accountant. Now, therefore it be resolved, the board hereby places Superintendent Benjamin Edmondson on paid administrative leave pending an immediate... Where's your gavel? And independent investigations into the district's business, financial...
You are wrong.
To order.
You are wrong.
Point of order.
There's no order in this. The way you have done this is egregious.
Point of order.
It's egregious the way you have done this. It is not called for. It is wrong. It is wrong. The impression that has been painted up here is that it's all Dr. Edmondson, and it is not. It is not him. And you have subcommittees that are running the district. That is the reason we don't have an accountant. You guys have run this, and he has sent us a letter saying that you have run him out of here. Now you got our superintendent walking out of here. You're wrong.
Okay, stop.
This is wrong.
Stop.
This is wrong.
Stop.
Wrong.
Stop.
It's wrong.
Stop.
Recall, right.
Okay, stop. Motion to recess. Stop. Move by Evans. Is there support? Call it. Is there support? No, we have a meeting. Sit down. We have a meeting.
You don't tell us to sit down.
It is not a personal vendetta.
Everyone's going to leave. Everyone's going to leave. We will not have a district. You're not going to be able to. We don't have a district anymore. We're destroying it.
Okay. Okay, Ms. Evans, are you ready with the motion?
You will not have a district. You don't know that. You're destroying it. I'm serious.
Whereas the superintendent has been notified of many of these problems in the district's business office on several occasions, but has failed to take any meaningful action to address these irregularities and proper financial practices. Whereas members of the board's Members of the board's Finance Committee are concerned that unless immediate and independent action is taken, the district's business and finances will be put at serious risk, especially given to the announced. Ma'am, we can ask you to leave. We can have you escorted off of the property, especially given the announced departure of the district's in-house accountant. Now therefore be resolved that the board hereby places Superintendent Edmondson on paid administrative leave pending an immediate and independent investigation into the district's business and financial practices, with the understanding that Dr. Edmondson is not to have any contact with district personnel, students, or parents, or come onto district property without the express consent of the board president until such time the board otherwise addresses such paid leave. That the board hereby retains the services of Sean McNatt to act as interim superintendent during the presidency of Dr. Edmondson's leave, during which time he/she will assume the responsibilities of the district superintendent on the same terms as his recent service to the district and filling in for the superintendent when Dr. Edmondson was on leave. That the board retain the services of law firm Clark Hill PLC to oversee the immediate and independent investigation into the district's business and financial practices, working with the district's auditor, Raymond, as well as the district's interim superintendent, and to otherwise provide such legal and other services as directed by the board president and interim superintendent. Do I have support?
Moved by Evans. Is there support? Is there anybody left? I will support. The floor is open for discussion. Ms. Kennard, Ms. German, are you with us? Ms. German? Ms. German, are you with us? Ms. Kennard, are you with us?
Mr. Cooper, did something happen to the connection that they can't hear us?
I didn't touch anything.
Okay, I'm just asking. Hi, can you please express your vote?
Wait. Did you hear the motion?
No, I have not heard the motion. I was kicked out.
You were kicked out?
No one kicked anybody out.
Yes.
All right, I'll reread it.
Well, let's hook up Nicole.
I'm here. I'm here now.
Oh, are you here, Nicole? Okay, Nicole, did you hear the motion? Nicole, did you hear the motion, or were you kicked out also?
No, I'm going in and out, but
Okay, hang on.
you're gonna call me?
Yes, I will call. Ms. Kennard, are you with us? Ms. Kennard?
Boy, it was really sad when it happened to Margie, and now it's happening.
No,
Yes, hang on. Ms. German, did you hear the motion?
I can't hear you.
Did you hear the motion?
Yes, I couldn't hear all of
Okay,
it.
Judy, you hit
I
mute.
really can't hear.
Okay.
Judy, can you hear us?
Okay, I'm gonna hook up Judy. Is Judy there? Oh, you have Judy?
She's on the computer.
She's on the computer?
She said she got kicked out. Let me hook her up here. Why is she? Yes, hang on. Let me get Judy.
I'm here. I
Are you
can't
here,
hear.
Judy?
I cannot hear.
Okay, Nicole, did you hear the motion?
No, I can't hear at all.
Hello, I am here. I cannot hear.
All right, let me hook up Judy.
Cannot hear.
Oh, Judy, you're here? Okay.
Cannot hear. I'm here. I cannot hear.
Can you hear Judy? Hang up and we'll call you on the phone, Judy.
Leave a message and your phone call.
You can give me some petitions, I'll take them around and get it.
All right, hang on.
Sorry, your call was missed.
Hello?
2,100, you had
Hello?
4,000 people vote for the last governor.
Are you there?
You only need 2,100.
All right.
Please.
Miss Evans is gonna read it. Judy's on here. Oh, Judy's on there? Yeah, read it.
Okay, I'm going to read the motion. Can you hear me? Whereas the district auditors, she's ringing in. Call again, Judy.
No, hang on.
There she is. Okay. All right. I will read the motion again. Whereas the district's auditors, Raymond, identified numerous concerns with the management of the district's business and finances in its 2019-20 audit of the district's finances, finding material weaknesses in many of the district's internal controls over financial reporting, as well as material weaknesses in the internal control over legal compliance. Whereas the board's concerns over the district's business office, coupled with the fact that the district has not replaced its former head of the district's business office, resulted in the district's retraining the services of Mike Dixon, a financial consultant from the Dixon Public Consultant, with over 40 years of public school district business experience, to assist the district's business office beginning in August 21. Whereas Mr. Dixon has recently reported to the district's finance committee that he has found numerous examples of the district's business office failing to follow normal financial protocols with respect to the district's expenditures, including but not limited to maintenance of appropriate receipts, and is issuing several smaller invoices to one business entity for the possible purpose of avoiding competitive bidding as required under the revised school code. Whereas the district superintendent has been notified of many of these problems in the district's business office on several occasions, but has failed to take any meaningful action to address these irregularities and improper financial practices. Whereas members of the board's finance committee are concerned that unless immediate and independent action is taken, the district's business and finances will be put at risk, especially given the announced departure of the district's in-house accountant. Now, therefore, be resolved that the board hereby places Superintendent Benjamin Edmondson on paid administrative leave pending an immediate and independent investigation into the district's business and financial practices, with the understanding that Dr. Edmondson is not to have any contact with district personnel, student, or parents, or come onto district property without the express consent of the board president until such time the board otherwise addresses such paid leave. That board hereby retains the services of Sean McNack to act as interim superintendent during the dependency of Dr. Edmonds' leave, during which time she will assume the responsibilities of the district superintendent on the same terms as his recent service to the district and filling in for the superintendent when Dr. Edmondson was on medical leave. That the board retain the services of the law firm of Clark Hill PLC to oversee the immediate and independent investigation into the district's business and financial practices, working with the district's auditor, Raymond, as well as the district's interim superintendent, and to otherwise provide such legal and other services as directed by board president and interim superintendent. How do you vote? German? How do you vote, German?
Listen, the motion is to place on paid administrative leave, that is not discipline, there is no loss of pay, and do an internal investigation as recommended by Mike Dixon, because we are so far out of compliance with Michigan law.
What is their vote?
Recall. Recall. You already decided who's going to be interim? That's wrong.
No, we haven't.
It's in your resolution.
Yes,
You've
Sean, it's
already shoved him out. It's in your resolution.
Recall.
That's what's wrong about it. Recall.
Sue Emmons, do the right thing. Vote no. Sue, do the right thing. You're doing the wrong thing. You're gonna have resignations tomorrow from other staff members. Do the right thing.
Recall. Recall.
Is this
It's paid administrative leave, yes.
Recall.
I'm sorry? It is paid administrative leave to do the investigation without obstruction.
You don't have a quorum, you can't do it. Recall. They're trying to get one.
They're on the computer, they're logged in, and they just can't hear us.
No, we're trying to connect them because they got kicked out of there. We're not getting a vote.
You guys are gonna end up investigating. All this behind
Hello?
the work, crap. All this behind the
Color on your phone.
Recall. Calling people on the phone.
Hello?
Recall.
the public will come.
I'm here. I just can't hear.
They will come for this.
Color on your phone, please. You got Nicole?
This is wrong.
You get Nicole on.
Recall. Recall. Recall.
We're trying to connect because they were kicked out of Google Meet.
I watch meetings and I see you texting all the time.
Hello.
That's why
Sorry,
everybody's
your call.
Recall.
They are connected?
Recall.
They couldn't hear.
Do they hear?
Yes,
Judy,
I'm
can you
here.
hear? There's
I can't
Nicole.
hear.
Nicole, what is your vote?
She didn't even send her kid to public school.
Stop.
No, you stop.
Recall.
Nicole, Ms. German, Ms. Kennard.
Don't even live in the district.
Recall.
Ms. Kennard, Ms. German, you are in and out. Can you please call? Can you please call?
Yeah, I'll call.
There you are, Ms. German and Ms. Kennard. Can you hear me? Ms. Kennard, Ms. German. I see that you're logged in, but we cannot see you or hear you.
Recall. Can you hear me?
On call German?
31775 Augusta Drive. Call me. I started the papers. Recall.
Ms. German, Ms. Kennard. Yes, I can hear you, Ms. German. How do you vote?
Is that, can you hear me?
Yes. How do you vote? Do you vote yes or no for paid for the motion? I'm sorry?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. How are you voting?
I say yes.
Yes? Ms. German says yes. Ms. Kennard, how do you wish to vote? Ms. Kennard, how do you wish to vote?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. How do you wish to vote?
Okay, my question, so this is just for investigation.
Correct. This is for paid administrative leave pending investigation.
Okay, so that's through the audit, audit findings and also
Correct.
the information pertaining to
Correct.
practice. Okay. So this is not a firing. I
Correct.
just want to make sure that's
No
clear.
termination.
No, it's
No termination.
Correct. Correct.
Okay, and do we know approximately how long this is gonna be?
I have no idea, a couple weeks, I think.
Yep, yep, and it's paid.
How do you wish to vote? You vote yes? Thank you very much. Piles vote? Yes. Abbott's vote? Terrell? Wester? Thank you. Motion passes 4-, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Bergeron. How do you vote? Thank you. Motion passes 4-3.
For people to have kids here in the district and to do that, that's bull crap.
Can they still hear me?
Working for the church.
Recall. Can they still hear me?
Motion to adjourn.
You got them both?
Please, please, let's save the district. There's nothing
I'm
wrong.
moving this
There's nothing
to
wrong
you
with
to
the
sit
school
down.
out there.
Yes, I did a motion to adjourn. Is there support?
Support to adjourn?
Yes, support.
Moved by Piles, supported by Kennard to adjourn.
We're moving, motion to adjourn.
You didn't hear from the public.
So, move.
Oh, no, you need to hear from the public. I was home watching
this
this.
is out- this is
I don't
out of
care,
control.
Deb. I don't
This is out
care.
of control. We
This
can't even
whole
hear.
climate has ruined our district. Our kids are suffering because you guys can't come to a damn agreement. You just ruined us. We've worked so hard. We were coming back. We're not a destination. We're a place to get off. And you hurt us very, very bad tonight.
Okay, so motion by Piles, supported by Kennard to adjourn. Madam Secretary, do the roll call.
Bergeron, motion to adjourn. Terrell? Wester, motion to adjourn. German, motion to adjourn.
She's on the screen.
Judy, motion to adjourn.
Yes.
Thank you. Evans, yes. Piles? Yes. Adjournment at 8:25.